It is Michelle Ndengocello coming through. Who is he and what is he to you? Actually born Michelle Lynn Johnson, an American singer-songwriter, poet, and bassist, performing under the moniker Michelle Ndengocello. And I'm sure there is a story there around, the deliberate respelling of the name Michelle and, of course, Ndengocello. The cool thing is, though, that yesterday the Joy of Jazz lineup for 2025 was announced with our sister station Radio 2000 as one of the official radio partners. And I know that there was much fanfare and excitement around Michelle Ndengocello coming back into the country to perform for audiences there. I'd also be keen to know the history of the song. Who is he and what is he to you? Because it actually went to number one back in 1996, and it's a Bill Withers cover song. Obviously, here sampling a little bit of Bill Withers on this particular track. Here's to crossing thumbs and hoping that we can get Michelle Ndengo on the show. Let's put it out there to the gods of conversations to ensure that we get her on the show so we can talk all things career, music, and all the things in between. So good to be back with you after a couple of days of being away from the show. I'd love to say that I was getting some much needed rest and relaxation after the Easter weekend, but far from it indeed. But it's good to be back. It's good to be back in good health. And we hope that this little train of ours continues to roar on. We've got lots of conversation coming through. We are having a look at South Africa, looking at the state of the nation 30 years into democracy. And we're having this conversation on the back of a piece that was penned in the conversation by our guest today. We're also going to be touching base with stages, pages, screens, and more, looking at the Africa Rising Music Conference, which is returning to Constitution Hill come mid-May. So you don't want to miss out on that one. After 2 o'clock, we're having a very important conversation around, the educator's perspective and the impact of trauma on learning and why educators, teachers need trauma-informed training. I mean, we see the environment in which our teachers are operating under in schools. We know the social impacts that themselves and the students are bringing onto school campus. They're not devoid from feeling any of that, the violence, the abuse, any of those traumatic actions. So we'll have that conversation after 2. Our lines are open for you if you want to be in contact with us. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line if you want to send through a voice note. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll be right back on the other side.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
What matters is still coming up. It's a massive football rivalry. It is one of the biggest football derbies in the world. Amakosi clashes with the Buccaneers at the Calabash. This is the Betway Premiership. Experience the Soweto Derby, Kaizer Chiefs versus Orlando Pirates on Saturday, 3 May at 2 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We are catching up with Naeem Gino, who's a senior researcher for humanities at Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection. And we are having a conversation around the state of the nation 30 years into democracy, partly informed by a piece that was penned in the conversation by our guest and his 2 co-authors. Good afternoon to you, Naeem. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Thanks. I'm good, Bridget.
Thank you so much for the time. I mean, it's just 30 years into democracy, celebrated 30 years of democracy last year, and had all kinds of reflective conversations, throughout as a country. And I think probably, those conversations still need to continue. And part and parcel of this conversation has also been penned in a thought-provoking new book that was titled The State of the South African State Capability, Capacity and Ethics. maybe the first question for us to begin with, because the book does examine South Africa's trajectory through a multidisciplinary lens. Let's start with maybe what's gone wrong over the 30 years.
Well, what a place to start, Bridget. Look, I mean, a lot has gone right, but a lot has gone wrong. And the reason that the book, by the way, the three of us, myself, Dr. Sandy Africa and Dr. Musangele, are the co-editors of. So the book contains about 18 chapters by different authors, specialists in different fields. And in terms of how it lays it out, I mean, the subtitle of the book, Capacity, Capabilities and Ethics, was chosen precisely because we think that it encapsulates part of what has gone right and part of what has gone wrong. And a big part of what has gone wrong in the past 30 years relates to the issue of capability and ethics. On the ethics part, I mean, I don't think I need to explain to a South African audience about issues around state capture, corruption, etc. And just this kind of very unethical basis that has begun to shape a lot of our politics and our public service, where serving the public is really about serving oneself. On the ethics part, and that has been a big part of what has gone wrong in South Africa. The focus on self-enrichment rather than on uplifting those who are most oppressed and marginalized in our society. And then the other big part that has gone wrong has to do with capability. So here again, there's parts that have gone right and parts that have gone wrong. But we find that in various sections of the South African state, even though the capacity exists, so the infrastructure is there, the institutional framework is there, the laws are there, etc., to make things work, the skills are not necessarily there in some places. The will is not there to do what needs to be done, etc. And all of these put together brings us, 31 years later, to a situation where we can generously say that we have a mixed bag of results. I don't think that the more than 40% of people in South Africa who are unemployed will accept that generous assessment. Because we are in a dire situation. As you know, one of the most unequal societies in the world, one of the highest unemployment rates in the world, and deep levels of poverty 30 years into democracy.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at that sort of mixed bag of results, then I guess part of the question also posed by the piece as well as the book is, how do South Africans then categorize the post-apartheid state as it is today? Is it a failing state, a mafia state, a developmental state?
Unfortunately, I can't give you an absolute answer to that. It's none of those. Look, for one thing, South Africa is neither a failed nor a failing state. We like to throw some of these words around, particularly when we are angry and when we're having dinner and complaining about the situation around us. But it's not. It's not a failed state. It's not a failing state. It's a state that does work for the most part. It has elements of what we might think of as a mafia state in different parts of the state. And let's remember that when we talk about the state, we're talking about three kind of arms of the state. There's the executive, the government, parliament, the judiciary. And in terms of the government, there's three spheres of government. There's national, provincial, 9 provincials, and then all of the municipal governments as well. And there are pockets where certainly mafia state would be a good description, but it's not a good enough overall description. So that brings me to the fourth possible description you gave, which is a developmental state. Now, this this is what many, certainly in our government and others outside the government as well, would like us to be. This is what has been punted by the ANC and the ANC in government up to the middle of last year as what South Africa is becoming. But we are far from it. A developmental state would be one that focuses or has a very strong focus on the development of its people, on uplifting people from the kind of poverty that we find ourselves in, getting rid of the inequality that we have, strengthening our capacity for employment, etc., and a very sharp focus on that kind of an approach, while at the same time, in order to bolster that, strengthening the economy, building the economy, and all of that. There have been attempts at these kinds of things over the past 30 years, and we haven't been entirely successful. That remains for many people, and that comes out in the book as well, that remains the kind of objective for many commentators, for many in government, for many who want to see South Africa improving and becoming a better state. A kind of developmental state, a state that is strongly democratic, and the pillars of democracy are not weakened or eroded in any kind of way, but at the same time has its focus on the upliftment of its people, on building a strong single nation. None of that is true at the moment, but that's the talk about. That's where we want to go, and the book also looks at some ways in which we can try to get there.
And I think that jumps us off the point around the idealism of building the strong single nation, jumps us off on the question of then why is there such a wide divergence in terms of public opinion and public sentiment? I mean, we've got a country here that seems to be pulling in different directions.
Of course, a difference in public opinion, even strong and vibrant difference, is actually quite healthy in a democracy. What we have, however, in South Africa is not a South African nation that has vibrant debate. What we have is a South Africa with many nations. The national question we have not managed to resolve after 30 years, and so we therefore have the situation where you have a bunch of people going to the United States and saying, "Oh, our nation is oppressed," whoever that might be.
Yeah.
Right? And when you say who is our nation, they're not talking about the South African nation. They're talking about a section of the South African population. And part of the reason why we've not been able to deal with that is because we have, in some ways, kind of misunderstood what reconciliation means and what nationhood means. I mean, reconciliation. For 30 years, reconciliation has largely been the responsibility of black people in this country.
Yeah.
Black people need to reconcile with white people. The other side of that coin is that there needs to be redress of the injustices that have been done in the past. I mean, the fact that you have 8% of the population controlling 70-odd% of the land, of the agricultural land in this country. You have 8% of the population controlling 80% of the country's wealth, is not something that you can say bodes well for a single nation. And so from one perspective, you look at the situation, you say, what has changed? These people that we need to reconcile with, they're not willing to say, okay, we can accept that we are beneficiaries of a wrong system, and therefore that needs to change. So until and unless we're able to deal with the socio-economic disparities in the South African society, we're not going to really get closer to a single South African nation that pulls in the same direction even with different opinions and diversity and debates, etc.
Yeah.
And so that socio-economic issue is what is critical to resolving this.
Made perfect timing there as we go into the headline news. We're going to come back on the other side of this, and if you want to share your perspective on the conversation, perhaps you've given this some thought, or maybe you've even tabled this discussion amongst your group of friends and intellectuals, feel free to give us a call on 086 000 2032 and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice message, you're more than welcome to do so. It's just gone 1:30 on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga.
Thanks, Bridget. Good afternoon. In the headlines at 1:30, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has confirmed that he will make a third attempt at tabling the 2025 national budget on the 21st of next month. The Bloemhof Christiana Tourism Association in the Leguatemane local municipality in the northwest is calling on government to work with the private sector to find a permanent solution to the continuing flooding of the Vaal River. And a U.S. representative, Josh Simons, has told the International Court of Justice in The Hague in the Netherlands that the ongoing conflict in Gaza is a critical issue for the international community. A full bulletin at 2 o'clock.
SABC Technology Business is a unit which provides services to internal and external clients. Our strategic objective is to ensure that SABC has the appropriate and reliable technological infrastructure for production, post-production, digital media content available to the public. Our range includes IP portable production studio facilities and the digitization of legacy content. Our outside broadcast vans, fully equipped to follow you anywhere and everywhere. For competitive pricing, contact Bookings Facilities at sabc.co.za.
After a 2-0 away win earlier this season against Ipswich Town, the Toffees are confident of another victory.
Batters it beyond Muric, and Everton lead at Portman Road.
Meanwhile, the Tractor Boys believe the only way to make pressure mild is to triumph.
Far post is Ben Johnson. It's 2-0 Ipswich. What on earth is going on?
This is the Premier League. Catch the superb clash between Everton FC and Ipswich Town FC the Saturday 3 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This Mother's Day, there's no better way to celebrate mom than with a thoughtful gift from Dis-Chem. Show her how much you care with luxurious bath and body gift sets from Baylis and Harding and Nature's Edition, or soothing Serengeti home fragrances and Price's candles. Imagine mom's delight as she unwraps her favorite fragrance or a stylish wall, Philips or Reflections hair appliance. Don't forget a sweet treat to indulge in. Spoil mom with perfect gifts from Dis-Chem. Hurry, offers end 11 May.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Having a conversation that reflects on the state of the nation 30 years into democracy with the co-author of the book, The State of the South African State, Capability, Capacity and Ethics. And of course, Naheem Jinnah is the senior researcher at Humanities for Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection. Wondering, what are your thoughts as a South African? What do you think has gone wrong over the last 30 years or so? Feel free to send us a voice note. And of course, our WhatsApp number is 061 410 4107, or you can give us a call on 086 000 2032. Are you also in agreement that in part it speaks to the capability and the ethics question in the country, because capacity is something that we absolutely do have. Would love to hear from you. What do you think has gone wrong with the state of the nation? As we continue our conversation with Naheem Jinnah this afternoon. And I mean, part and parcel, as you say, Naheem, that the book consists of 18 chapters that were contributed by experts in various fields, just unpacking this 30-year journey into democracy. Perhaps let's also highlight some of the, I know it spoke to 5 evolution phases of the democratic states. Maybe we can highlight and break those down as well in this conversation.
So the phases that it looks at in the evolution of the state. I mean, these are not necessarily starting in 1 year, finishing off in year 2, and starting in year 2 and finishing in year 3, but different evolutionary phases. So we have the phase of 1994 to 1999, for example, setting up the institutions of a new state. Then from around the mid-1990s to the early or mid-2000s, there's another phase of developing the state and its capacity to deliver all of that, etc. And we have, critically, the last 2 phases in this evolution. The one was that phase when from around 2008, 2009, when we might regard the serious kind of ethical crisis of the state having begun. And that, has led to a lot of the problems that we're still seeing taking place in South Africa. I mean, the undermining of the ethical foundations of the state costs a lot of money, and a lot of money that could have gone into real uplifting of the people of this country. And the last 2 phases, the one before this, current one, kind of trying to get out of that ethical crisis, and finally this phase that we are now in, which is a new government, the government of national unity, which has reshaped how the government looks, certainly at national level. At provincial and local level, we've had coalitions already, but at national level, reshaped what the government looks like, and in many ways has reshaped what the legislature, what parliament looks like as well. And so we look at these as kind of different, in a sense, different moments that might last 5 years or 6 years or whatever, but different moments in the evolution of the South African state, not necessarily phases that follow upon each other.
Yeah, I want to give an opportunity to some of our listeners. So perhaps let's jump to WhatsApp and hear your thoughts. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086002032 is the number that you can call us on.
Hi, Bridget. Willie here in Kuma. Bridget, your guest shouldn't shy away from South Africa being a mafia state or a failed state. You see, he just hesitates, but the fact of the matter is, South Africa is a failed state, it's a mafia state, and then he indicated that the fact that there's no competency in the management and general leadership, there's no capability. So all those elements speak to the fact that the country is a failed state. Thank you, Willie and Kuma.
I appreciate and the SA families and appreciate the only thing like we see ever since like we get into the democracy, being independent as we call it from 1994 up to now. We're just experiencing like ANC taking over from the apartheid and use it like, you start to using the tribalism, the other nation, the other tribes are bigger than others, so on and so on, nothing else. But let me hear the Kurleni.
1999, for example.
Good day, Bridget. On the issue of socio-economics and the politics of this country, the biggest problem we have is we are dealing with non-rehabilitated people who are not interested in reconciliation. That's why this country is going nowhere, economically, socially, and in everything else. Thank you.
All right, let's jump to Konse. It's in the Eastern Cape. Konse in the Eastern Cape. How are you doing, Zoe?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Bridget. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Go ahead.
I like it that you struggle. Konse, it's a very difficult name. It has always been Konse, but this government are saying that they are name change. It has never been. We just used King Williamstown. When you're talking to white people, they say, I'm going to King Williamstown. Konse. It was always Konse. Q. When you write it, it's Q once. Q and once. Yeah, the English, yeah.
Okay. Konse. Danki, Siabulela. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, Steve Biko's plays the singer. I'm a singer myself, yeah. Now, Bridget, I agree with the callers and then the other guy from Kuma. That the reason, for me, my own way of explaining it, is the reason that we don't see things getting done, development-wise, is because the government is staffed up by people who do not know what must be done or how it must be done. So that is why you cannot have anything done if you have people who do not know what must be done or how it must be. When they do know what must be done, they don't know how it must be done. For example, you can ask them, if you want to have a dam built, what are the processes that must be followed? We have floods in KwaZulu-Natal. There's rain in the Eastern Cape this time of the year, which is strange. I think it's part of the global climate change. But there are no programs to ensure that with this water is directed to catchment areas, you see? But on the other hand, we are complaining that the water is a problem. Water is a problem. The second war will be about water. You see? Are you there?
No, I completely hear you. Thank you so much, Zoe, out in Konse. Former Kings Williamstown. Okay, now I'll forever know that. Thank you for your perspective. As we wrap it up, Naeem, maybe let me jump to you for just some final remarks in this minute.
So, I mean, I hear what the callers are saying, and, you know, it's, I understand also some of the frustration that is being expressed. The reason I say it's not a failed state, we actually do have institutions that do work. And the kind of problems around capability, it's not that we have no capability in the state, it's that we have capability in certain pockets, while in other pockets we don't, and then in some cases that capability is compromised by a lack of ethics. So in general, you know, I'm parked on the side of a highway right now. The traffic is moving. There's, you know, South Africa is working. It's moving, but it's not going where we want it to go in any kind of speed that we want it.
Yeah.
And this at this pace, those who are marginalized in our society will become more and more marginalized. So what we're saying is that there needs to be a strong strengthening of the ethical principles and foundations of the state. There needs to be serious work done on ensuring that we have a capable state, and this needs to move us forward with a clear focus on our people. It's important to say that we must build the economy and all of that, but people don't exist for the economy. The economy exists for our people, and I think that's an important kind of focus.
Absolutely. Naeem, we appreciate the time with you. And of course, you parking off on the side of the highway to conduct this interview. That was Naeem Jenna, who is a senior researcher with the Humanities Department at Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection. And of course, one of the three co-authors of the book, or rather co-editors of the book, The State of the South African State, Capability, Capacity and Ethics. That book also co-edited by Musanxele, who is a political economist with the University of Cape Town and Sandy Africa. Director of Research at Mestra and Research Associate at the Department of Political Sciences and University of Pretoria. It's approaching 1:45. We're going to take a quick pause and then we'll come back on the other side. And we'll get into the more colorful side of life. It's the wildflower season in the Namakwa land.
This season, the truth cuts deeper than ever. Silent Witness is back for its gripping 20th season, and no secret is safe. Dr. Nikki Alexander and the Lal Center team dive into chilling murders, dark conspiracies, and personal trials that hit closer to home than ever before. Truth speaks, if you know how to listen. Silent Witness, Season 20, Thursday and Fridays at 9 p.m. on S3. Don't just watch the mystery, feel it.
What matters is still coming up. It's a massive football rivalry. It is one of the biggest football derbies in the world. Amakosi clashes with the Buccaneers at the Calabash. This is the Betway Premiership. Experience the Soweto Derby, Kaizer Chiefs versus Orlando Pirates on Saturday, 3 May at 2 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC 1. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
You and I have a country to build, difficult conversations to have, solutions to find, and stories to tell. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 p.m. to midnight.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Getting into a conversation now, looking at the wildflower season in the Namakwa land. Lister Standa is joining us, co-founder and executive director at the South African Experiences, the organization behind the Namakwa Flower Beach Camp. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hello, Bridget. I'm doing very well, thank you. And thank you for the honor of being on your show.
No, we thank you for taking the time. I mean, in all my years as a South African, and I consider myself well-traveled when it comes to this country of ours, I still have not come to the Namakwa Wildflower Show just to see. So tell us a bit about this wildflower season. Firstly, from when until when does it begin?
Right, so the season starts round about beginning of August. I mean, it runs through all depending on the rainfall and the weather patterns. It could run up until the first to the second week of August. So it's actually a very short season, and it's very dependent on the rainfall. But we do the camp. And you've just mentioned it, it's the Namakwa Flower Camp. We do the camp just for a month every year, and we try and hit the sweet spot, which is middle of August to middle of September. So during that time of the year, you're kind of guaranteed of finding flowers somewhere in that region. And also we need to remember that all the flowers don't bloom all at the same time, right? So some species start blooming earlier, and the other species towards the end of the season. But it's a worthwhile travel, Bridget, and I would motivate you to really take the trip because it is an absolute spectacle.
I mean, I've read that Namakwa is said to be the place that we all need to experience at least once in our lifetime.
Yeah, you're right. There's so many people that visit us actually comment exactly that and saying that it's been a bucket list item. And to really understand the magnificence and the beauty and how special it is, I think one needs to just have some of the background of what the park is all about. So if you don't mind, can I just sketch you a little bit of what the Namakwa National Park is all about?
We love a picture. Go ahead.
Fabulous. Great. So the Namakwa National Park is actually one of the internationally recognized biodiversity hotspots. So there is only 34 in the world, and Namakwa is one of them. And it's one of the few arid hotspots in the world. So in the region of Namakwa, there's about 6,500 different plant species, which is incredible. But what's even more special is the fact that 3,000 of those species are endemic, which means that you will not find them anywhere else in the world, only in the Namakwa National Park. And that's why it's also so popular with international visitors, because they come to experience and see what Namakwa has to offer, and those specific flowers which they won't be able to see anywhere else in the world. And it's a huge area. It's actually 145,000 hectares.
Oh wow!
So it's massive, yes. And the purpose of the park was originally established to protect the diverse succulent and other flora in that region, especially the endemic species, which is that is something so special that they don't occur anywhere else in the world but there.
Well, here's a question for you, Lister, and I'm hoping you can give us a bit of a geography come biology, natural sciences lesson. You know, what is it that makes the Namakwa land such a special sort of hotspot? What is the makeup there and the environment there that lends itself to this unique biodiversity?
Yeah, so I'm not a botanist or a flower expert, but I'm going to try and answer your question as best as what I can. So Namakwa land is part of the Karoo biome, and that means that inland the soil types are completely different. There you will find the granite and the koppies, and then it also has this unbelievable coastline, which is completely uninhabited and really natural and rugged. And there you have the sand dunes, so it's a sandy coastline. So it's completely diverse, and that's also why you find completely different flowers inland, where you'll find the daisies and some bulb species, whereas in the sandy sections towards the coast, you'll find all the succulents. So it's very diverse. So people that visit us at Namakwa Flowers Beach Camp, we normally encourage them to also take a trip inland. Namakwa has got, the Namakwa National Park has got two specific gates which are very popular and most people know. So the one is at Groenrivier, so that is where we are positioned. It's on the coast. And then the other one is known as the Skulpad entrance to the park. So that is the top end of the park. So at the top end, you will find all the daisies. So if you see any pictures of Namakwa land, it's normally about the daisies. It's all these yellow fields, yellow and orange fields, and then at the coastal section, you find the succulents and all kinds of species of phaces, and these are the purples and the pinks. Yeah, absolutely magnificent.
So if anybody, Lister, if anybody wants to come through and experience your offering now with the beach camps, tell us, what that experience is like.
Right. So it is our 14th year this year. Quite proud of it. And we've just been awarded the next 5-year concession. So Bridget, what it is we arrive with trucks of equipment in the beginning of August, and there is a campsite called Delvish Camp. Sandparks actually has a number of campsites on the coastal section. So we arrive there with absolutely everything. So we come and we set up 17 luxury tents. Most of them are actually right on the rock, so I don't think you would ever have slept closer to the ocean than they. We come in with all the lounging and dining infrastructure. We bring in the kitchens. We come in with chefs, and it is an absolute turnkey solution. So for those 4 weeks that we are situated there, guests can just arrive. And I'll give you a quick rundown of what a program feels like, just to entice you, and perhaps you would want to come visit. So, if someone arrives in the afternoon, they would be checked into their tent. We have sundowners, canapes, and sunset drinks around about 6 o'clock. At about 7 o'clock, people move into our dining room, and we have a fantastic 3-course meal. That is one of the highlights of the camp that people always comment on, is the amazing food experience. Then you would check back into your tent, and you would have, it's also quite cold still in the evening, you would have your tent being turned down, electric blankets would be switched on, and you would have a little basket with your tea and coffee for the next morning that's sitting ready. Next morning at 7:30, we pour the showers. It's all hand poured. As we know, in the inner arid region, water is very limited, so it's a butler-filled bucket shower, nice and warm water. People have the opportunity to shower. You get your flask of boiling water delivered to your tent, so you can lie in your bed, have your coffee and a rusk, and look over the ocean. And then at 8:30, we serve a full breakfast. After that, and we have to wait for the temperature to rise a little bit for the flowers to open. So from about 10 to 11, the flowers start opening, and then there are a number of activities that people can participate in. Either we sit with a map and we explain all the driving routes that guests can drive to go and look at other flower areas, or they can take a flower walk. We've got a little booklet, and this year we are very fortunate to have Tanya Visser. She will be in camp. She's a renowned flower fundi, an expert, so she will be in camp from the 7th to the 12th of September. And guests that are booked in over that period will then be able to go on flower walks with her. Yes, and then the next day we do the same thing all over again. But you know, the beauty about that is there's a saying that the only way to really experience the flowers is on your knees. You know, when you're in a vehicle and you drive past, you purely see the fields of color. But you don't get the real picture. When you're there is so much more happening. It's amazing, and then to see the flowers and everything that happens up close.
I mean, it sounds absolutely wonderful indeed, and definitely a bucket list item. You've moved it a few notches higher up my list, so hopefully one of these years I'll be seeing you guys. Lister Stander, we appreciate the time, and Lister Stander is the co-founder and executive director at the South African Experiences, and they are behind the Namakwa Flower Beach Camp. You heard August is the prime time, that limited window for you to go through and experience all the wonder of the wildflower season at the Namakwa land, and get yourself a VIP camping experience as well. You can visit www.flowercamps.co.za. That's flowercamps.co.za to get more information. It's just, a minute and a bit to go before the top of the hour. Utsile is standing well. He's going to come through with the 2 o'clock news just at the top of that hour. And then on the other side of 2, we're having an important conversation around the educator's perspective and the impact of trauma on learning, and why teachers need trauma-informed training. What is your thoughts, without having heard the conversation, but would you concur that perhaps our teachers need to also be skilled in some kind of trauma-informed training, not just for their own safety, but also to recognize some of those telltale signs when their students are perhaps dealing with things that could ultimately be explosive, that could ultimately lead to some kind of dangerous situation, whether for the student themselves or for the schooling community at large. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. 086002032 is the number that you can call us on. It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 2 o'clock. New budget to be tabled on the 21st of May, and search continues for the car in the case of deceased police officers. Good afternoon. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has confirmed that he will make a third attempt at tabling the 2025 national budget on the 21st of next month. Last week, National Treasury announced its decision to reverse its proposed 0.5 percentage points in VAT increase following contestation from political parties. Godongwana says government remains committed to its strategic path to strengthening health, education and social services. Briefing the media in Pretoria, Godongwana says he has no intention of resigning.
The challenges ahead are serious but not insurmountable. If we work together, stay focused and persevere, we can chart a better course for our economy and our people. That is my commitment to South Africans, and that is what we aim to achieve when we table the new budget on the 21st of May 2025.
Police believe recovering the vehicle that the 3 deceased police constables were travelling in will lead to a breakthrough in their investigations. The officers' bodies were retrieved from the Henops River in Centurion in Gauteng yesterday. Some parts of the vehicle were found at the scene where the bodies were retrieved. Police National spokesperson Athlenda Mate says the search for the vehicle resumed this morning after it was suspended last night. She spoke to SABC News in Bela Bela in Limpopo, where the police minister and the safety MAC were meeting.
We believe the vehicle has the answers that we are looking for. So up until we find that vehicle, we cannot necessarily conclude this case, because we do believe that it can give us a picture of what really transpired on that evening. We are looking at a culpable homicide case where there was a possible accident, but we cannot reach that conclusion now.
The lawyer representing one of the accused in the Jocelyn Smith kidnapping case has submitted that there is no corroboration in the evidence of accused turned state witness Laurentia Lombard. Advocate Rinesh Sevnarain is representing Kelly Smith in the case in the Western Cape High Court sitting in Saldanha Bay. The defence has concluded its closing arguments. Advocate Sevnarain says Lombard's evidence shows that the state has failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. Sevnarain also says there are conflicting versions of accused Jacqueline Apollos and Lombard.
I think my submission is that once someone looks at her evidence on its own, it is so poor that there's no need to find corroboration. When Ms. Lombard made these statements or confessions, it even came out that there were promises made to her, or she expected to receive some benefit.
The Bloemhof Christiana Tourism Association in the Lekwatemane local municipality in the northwest is calling on government to work with the private sector to find a permanent solution to the continuing flooding in the Vaal River. Last Friday, 10 sluice gates of the Vaal Dam and 7 of the Bloemhof Dam were opened to maintain water levels that are currently at over 100% capacity. However, the Water and Sanitation Department says 2 of the Vaal Dam's sluice gates will gradually be closed this afternoon. The association's Sias Meyer elaborates.
If we can, in the rainy season, get a dam lower to like 90%, 85%, 90%, and then build it up and then go down again, that will be the right way for us. We all think that way. We haven't been in close contact with Water Affairs. We talk on the phone about how much are you opening, how much are you closing now. As business owners, we're now out of business for this period. As I said, 2022, we were out of business for 4 months. Now we're already 1 month out of business. Funds are used up because we started cleaning, and when we cleaned, we wanted to move back on the 12th or the 13th of April, and it started rising.
And finally, a U.S. representative, Josh Simons, has told the International Court of Justice in The Hague in the Netherlands that the ongoing conflict in Gaza is a critical issue for the international community. He says this week many speakers in court have raised concerns about the flow of humanitarian assistance to residents of Gaza. Since Monday, the court has opened hearings to gauge Israel's responsibility for the humanitarian crisis in Gaza in its war against Hamas. Simons says little has been said about Hamas misusing some of the facilities in Gaza.
You have also heard concerns about Israel's decision to cease engagement with UNRWA. You have heard little, however, about the serious, incredible concerns about Hamas misusing UNRWA's facilities and humanitarian assistance. You have also heard little of Israel's security needs after the terrorist attacks on October 7th, 2023. These security needs persist today. Many hostages, including Americans, are still being wrongfully held in horrendous conditions.
Recapping the top story, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has confirmed that he will make a third attempt at tabling the 2025 national budget on the 21st of next month. For SAFM News, I am Utsi Lisaku. Headlines at 2:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
He called himself a king. Others call him dangerous. Andrew Tate, the man who groomed the world. The shocking documentary that uncovers how one man built an empire of influence and manipulation. From viral videos to global headlines, discover the truth behind the persona and the impact on millions of young minds. Andrew Tate, the man who groomed the world. Thursday, the 1st of May at 10 p.m. on S3. Open up.
Marawai, why did you think you could change your tire when you've never even changed a light bulb successfully? Marawai, why not switch to Santam and get 24/7 roadside assistance to get you moving again? Choose the insurer with cover options that suit your needs. Call 0860 444 444 or SMS cover to 36101. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
sparkles to your eyes. Oh, like a trip to heaven. Heaven is the prize. I'm so glad I found you. You're an angel in disguise. And I can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. Even if I could, I can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. No, can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. Even if I could, I can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. No. Can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. Even if I could, I can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. No, can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. Even if I could, I can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. No, I just can't help myself.
Someone needs to tell me if Esperanza Spalding's I Can't Help It has any kind of connection to Michael Jackson's I Can't Help It from 1979. So she did sample a little bit of Michael Jackson. Okay. If you're live streaming, if you're watching us on live stream, because you know we live stream. So I'm sitting directly facing my producer's their producing booth, which is the window. If you're live streaming where I'm pointing, the window in front of me, the direction that I'm, they were like, yes. So clearly they are fans of Esperanza Spalding, right there coming through with I Can't Help It is the name of the song. No, Esperanza is not coming to the jazz. Esperanza is coming to the jazz. I was at the announcement yesterday, but I've forgotten. All I know is that the lineup is fabulous for 2025. Okay, Esperanza is coming. Let's get on with the conversation at hand now. Our lines are open for you on WhatsApp. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Question for you is, do you think that our educators, our teachers, need trauma-informed training as we look at the impact of trauma on learning? We are catching up with Dumsani Shabalala, who is the head of academics at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. How are you doing this afternoon, Dumsani?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm doing very well, and good afternoon to your listeners. And thank you very much for inviting me to talk about this important topic in shaping our kids.
Thank you for the time. We appreciate it. So we know that in South Africa, classrooms obviously, are bursting with potential. But beneath the surface, there's also a lot of unspoken dark truths, right? About just what our learners carry with them to school. That's more than the learnings in the books. And what our teachers also have to endure within the schooling environment.
Spot on, Bridget. I think you're spot on. And I think it is time for us now to recognize, or rather realize, that the environments our kids grow up in does expose them to trauma. And if we are to be effective in our teaching, we must recognize the prevalence of trauma and be capacitated as teachers with the right techniques of realizing the trauma as it plays itself in our classroom and respond in ways that can remediate and resist to have pedagogical methods that re-traumatize the children. Thirdly, Bridget, if I can tell you a short story, I think we all know beginning of the year we see there's social media buzzing with bundles of joy. That's the tagline, bundles of joy. And more than half of them, and I'm just quoting statistics from my head, I cannot qualify it, but I think more than half of them, you see them crying, and you wonder, why do they cry when they go into a space that will develop and grow them? It is a fact that these kids experience trauma, and when they come to the educational setting, we re-traumatize them, or rather exacerbate the trauma that they've suffered.
And let me ask you this, Dumsani, because speaking about that trauma, sort of the triggers of that trauma, right? I read that in part, the mind is shaped by trauma. And when the mind has been affected by trauma, it's then wired for survival rather than learning. And how does that then shape how educators must be having a conversation about teaching and the impact of trauma in the teaching environment ecosystem?
Yeah, Bridget, I think you're quoting what you read, spot on, right? And for me, my argument is that essentially there are two domains that frame teacher training, right? Teachers learn about the subject matter knowledge of the subject that they teach. They also learn about how to teach the subject, the pedagogy. So there's extensive literature about pedagogical content knowledge. However, we have to appreciate and agree that the whole point of teaching teaching children or sending them to school is to rewire or shape their brain. So if that's what we want to do, how is it that teachers know very little about how the brain develops and how experiences actually shape that brain? So as you've accurately said, that a child who's exposed to severe trauma, when they're in the classroom, they are hyper-vigilant. They are sensitive. They're always scanning for danger, And I think it begins with us creating safe classroom where kids can feel safe to be vulnerable in front of us, and then recognize when they're not present in the moment and find ways to bring them back into the right state. While we talk about this trauma-informed pedagogical method being something that is new, I want to argue that good teachers out there, they've been doing this work. It's just that they never find the scientific language to qualify the good teaching that they do. So people must not think we're talking about something that's completely new. It's simple techniques such as seeing that the child is not paying attention. You ask them to walk and get a glass of water. Those things, by walking, it regulates them, because the brain it develops from bottom up, and we can think about the brain as a tip-down triangle with 4 regions. The cortex, which is the most abstract part of the brain, is what we're trying to influence. But the way the brain processes information is sequential. It must start in the brainstem and then be processed in the middle part of the brain. Only then it can reach the abstract part of the brain. And in that whole circuit, a whole lot of things can go wrong. And the part of what you're trying to do is to ensure that circuit is clear of any issues and learning can happen.
How does chronic trauma, and what would we be describing or categorizing as chronic trauma, how does that affect learning and obviously by extension the classroom environment?
I think as we said, Bridget, in your introduction when you quoted there, those kids, they struggle to concentrate and their memory is lost. They struggle to concentrate. You see them zoning out. When a teacher raises their voice, trying to make a point about one content, flinch because they read that as terror, as fear, as something that they must be afraid of. And so I'm not convinced that anyone can learn in a classroom where kids are constantly afraid. So we have to make our classroom safe spaces, and kids must feel free and safe to be vulnerable in front of us.
Yeah. Dumsani, I want us to take a quick break here. We'll come back on the other side of this and continue our conversation. But our WhatsApp line is open if you want to share your perspective as you listen to this chat on 061 4104107 and 086 000 2032. And the question for you is, do you think that our educators, our teachers, need trauma-informed training because the education system is continuing to train teachers as if trauma does not exist, but it's something that they have to grapple with and deal with every single day in their classrooms. And from your perspective, maybe as a parent listening, maybe you've given this some thought, given the videos that we see coming out on social media, the attacks on student, teacher on student, and also just knowing from our social construct what our kids have to deal with in our communities and in their homes. And they bring all of that trauma into the classroom. What should be considered as part of equipping teachers to better handle, better recognize, and perhaps better intervene in these trauma-related instances. It's just gone 20 past 2 o'clock on The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Your Sunday nights are about to get big on S3. We have some of the biggest movie titles that will take you on adventures that you simply cannot miss. Thomas arrives in a glade at the center of a giant maze. The race to escape the maze leads him to a journey. Should they escape, all questions will be answered. Tune into The Maze Runner, Sunday, the 27th of April. Maze Runner Darth Cure on the 4th of May. Maze Runner The Scorch Trials on the 11th of May. S3 Blockbuster Movies, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
After a 2-0 away win earlier this season against Ipswich Town, the Toffees are confident of another victory.
Batters it beyond Murrich, and Everton lead at Portman Road.
Meanwhile, the Tractor Boys believe the only way to make pressure mild is to triumph.
Far post is Ben Johnson. It's 2-0 Ipswich. What on earth is going on?
This is the Premier League. Catch the superb clash between Everton FC and Ipswich Town FC. The Saturday 3 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with Dumsani Shabalala, who is the head of academics at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And we're exploring a conversation that speaks to, just from the educator's perspective, the impact of trauma on learning and why teachers need trauma-informed training. And we've sort of reiterated throughout the conversation that teachers are not prepared for what they ultimately have to deal with in the classroom, which is more than the academics of their training. So why is it, or maybe is there a conversation that's now being held with the various stakeholders in education around how the education system can train teachers better and train teachers to be more cautiously adapt for the traumas that they'll have to deal with in the classroom?
Yes. I think, Bridget, we need to. The conversation is happening. I do think that we need to get some momentum in the conversation, because I think we need to tackle this program or problem in two ways. One, we need to capacitate teachers with the specific skill sets that they need. But secondly, most importantly, we say a dysregulated adult can never regulate a dysregulated child. I think as human beings, we are wounded soldiers. We are working with our own issues. And I think it's time that as teachers, as adults, we begin to revisit some of our traumas and work on ourselves before we can even think about working on the kids that we teach.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You've just reminded us again, that poignant reminder that the schooling environment is only but a microcosm of society. So if we rattle statistics around femicide, around GBV, around all these issues that plague us, ultimately, if we're saying 1 in 3 women, what we're meaning is 1 in 3 educators. What we're meaning is 1 in 3 female students.
Yeah, spot on. And I think, Bridget, to emphasize the point, is that, the idea of trauma does not start when the child, as you said, enters the classroom. from when the child is conceived, everything that the mother experiences, the child experiences as well. So we know our society as a country. We know women, what happens to women, domestic violence against women. And so by the time a child enters the classroom, their load of trauma is excessive. So instead of worrying about content, they're worrying about survival. You know, in many times they grow up in houses where there are no parents, and they don't even have people that are constantly present in their life to mentor them and parent them. And so they're surviving. They're always trying to survive more than learn. And I think we need to recognize that, and we need to alter our pedagogical methods to cater for that. In a classroom where you're giving a 30-minute lesson, there's no point in trying to shove down content the whole 30 minutes. You must have regulatory breaks where you get kids back into the moment where they can learn. You must circle back and loop the content that you want them to keep on reminding. All these ideas I'm putting forward, they are ideas that are in sync or rather that correlate with how the brain actually processes information. And so we cannot change what we don't know as teachers, right? We taught about the content, we taught about pedagogy, but no one has ever taught teachers about neurobiology and neuroscience. And I'm not saying that teachers must now become neuroscientists. I'm saying they must know enough to navigate the era that they work in, which is changing the brain of a child.
Yeah. You guys have adopted some kind of trauma-informed approach to education at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy. What does that look like for you? And what kind of results are you seeing, the impact from that program?
Yeah, first of all, Bridget, the kids that we have, when they're in our classroom, they are present in the moment, which ensures that they can assimilate more than what a typical child does. And I'll highlight at least one thing, which I think is a simple thing which any school can do. Let's talk about the idea of stress. Right? Stress can be toxic, but also stress can be good. If you want to build resilience, you must be able to dose enough and predictable stress to build resilience. Think about someone who constantly having a migraine and they take medication for that migraine. Over time, that dose will not be sufficient because their system will become resilient to the medication, right? So that's what we're trying to create. I'm saying school can begin by thinking about their school day or rather their school calendar and make it predictable, because unpredictability creates anxiety and creates toxic stress. So we can begin by just making the school day predictable. Kids know that every Thursday they're writing a test. They know that every Monday there's going to be an assembly. They know it's predictable. But many schools out there, they're not predictable. Some days it's a half day. Other days, a teacher will be there, teacher won't be there. Absenteeism, So these are the issues that I think easy issues that we can begin to implement, which can help making our schools and our teaching to be trauma-informed.
Dumsani, tell me this. What in your professional overview, might be down the road for us if we continue on this path of, I guess to some degree, path of non-enlightenment or resistance to incorporating some of these strategies into our schooling environments?
I think at the moment, Bridget, we've got a bimodal education system, right? And the affluent, and I say this respect, they kind of have their own set of data and the rest. And I think if you continue on this path, the gap will keep on widening. We'll keep on having two education systems, and those that have and those that can will end up benefiting. I mean, the one example is that our school hasn't been a school, we've adopted this thing, this trauma-informed. I believe strongly that we're going to advance our kids, but over time, the kids who are not benefiting from this initiative, they will continue staying behind, and they will not take opportunities that come for every kid out there.
Well, listen, we appreciate the time, and of course we appreciate all the information. That was Dumsani Shabalala, Head of Academics at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And that is where we're going to leave this conversation today. It's approaching 2:30. And of course, Utsile standing by with your headline news. Then after which, we're going to get into our kids programming with Kids Corner. And then we'll come back and wrap up the show looking at innovation, social innovation for development, that is. We'll find out what the Department of the French Embassy in South Africa has been up to.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.2 FM in East London.
And in the headlines at 2:30, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says the Government of National Unity will develop a new consultation process which will be presented sometime in September before the tabling of the mid-term budget policy statement. The Constitutional Court has ruled that the blanket ban on personal laptops in prison cells is unlawful and violates the constitutional right to further education. And a BBC investigation has found that Turkey has significantly increased its military presence in northern Iraq, where Ankara says it's pursuing the banned Kurdish militant group, the PKK. Details at 3 o'clock.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
SABC Education, in partnership with the Department of Health and Ilifa Labantwana, bring you episode 22 of the Side by Side drama season 4, focused on fathers are important too.
That's what I need. Say and say. Side by side.
Singama Africa Kenya you Tina Singama Africa Kenya you Tina Singama Africa Kenya you Tina.
Oh wow.
Dada.
Oh wow.
Yes, baby.
Yeah,
Dada is on the phone with Mama.
Oh, you my little angel.
Dada. I've ordered the cake, Anela, and Joyce is coming to help me with the decorations this afternoon. I want Amanda's birthday to be so perfect.
Yeah, no. It should be very perfect. I've couriered her present. It should be there this afternoon in time for the party.
What do you mean, Anele, you've sent her present? Are you not bringing it?
Kanya, I would love to be there, but like...
No, Anele. You can't do this. It's our daughter's special day.
And lose my job.
She's never going to turn 2 again. You must be here.
So you want me to lose my job?
But surely something can work out.
I've tried my best to get time off, but they just won't give me leave.
They won't, or you won't fight for it, Anel.
I honestly asked for leave, but my request was rejected, Mankanya.
Okay, it's fine. I'm sorry I yelled at you. We were just looking forward to seeing you.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I was also looking forward to seeing you, honey. There might be an opening of a branch at home sometime in next year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to push back too hard against them because I might not get transferred back home when the new branch opens. So let's hope I'll come back. I love you.
I understand. Bye, Anel.
Bye, my girls. See you soon.
Maxa! Machita, it's weekend. Are you ready for tonight? Oh, we're going to be dressed so fine. Those girls won't know what hits them.
Flashes, about that. Ish, I can't make it anymore, though, guys.
No, Mankola. What's wrong with you? Gloria wants your blood, man.
I know. But I have to go visit with Kabisas.
Is it her birthday?
No, it's not her birthday.
Then why? Why?
Hi, bo Flashes. Because that's what fathers do, Flashes. I don't need to have a reason or a special occasion to show her that I love her.
Oh, la Kazimzala. But you send your ex the child support every month. You're not like all these other guys who don't provide.
It Flashes. That's not enough. I want to be there, even for the little things that happen in her life.
I understand that. But I don't know what's gotten into you these days. It's like you've become a whole new other person.
Ish Flashes, we only have a few years on this earth, yes? And we must make the most of it.
Oh, Laman, why do you preach to me? This is not like you. I want my fun cousin back.
Things change and people change. You just have to accept it.
Unfortunately, Anele can't make it for Amanda's birthday.
Aww. Look, at least, look at it this way. He got her a beautiful gift. Did you see that gift?
But Lerato, she was really looking forward to seeing him. It's an important day in her life. And he is one of the most important people in her life. And now, it's going to break her heart, honestly.
Friend, I hear you, okay? But sometimes one needs to make sacrifices.
Oh, Joyce. It's already a sacrifice that we don't live together as a family. I wish things could go back to how they were before.
Yeah.
I'll get that. I think it's Babalwa.
Listen, Kanya, I'm really sorry, friend. If there's anything I can do, please just let me know.
You're right, Joyce. I just need to accept this is our new normal.
Auntie, look what I found!
Oh my God!
Wow. Hello, my little angel. Come here and give Dada a big hug, birthday girl. Wow, you've grown. And how about to get a hug from my wife? Why are you just standing there?
What are you doing here?
Did you really think I was going to miss seeing my baby girl's second birthday?
You're a wonderful father.
Anya, if you hug me any tighter, you squeeze out my breakfast, and that won't be pretty sight.
I'm sorry. What happened? Did you fight them?
I had to, my love. And I drove for 5 hours to get home.
I hope it hasn't spoiled your chances of getting a transfer to the new branch when it opens.
I hope so too. But sometimes you have to decide what is important.
Yeah.
And this day is an important day in our daughter's life.
Yay! Okay, guys. Why don't we sing for Amanda and then we cut the cake?
No, maybe let me fetch the cake and then we'll sing.
Okay,
for her.
let's go. Oh my gosh.
Where's the cake?
Singama Africa Kenya you Tina Singama Africa Kenya you Tina Singama Africa Kenya you Tina.
Now join us again tomorrow as we sit down with an expert at 2:30 to further discuss fathers are important too right here on SAFM.
by side.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
The Spanish Princess series continues the story of Queen Catherine and Henry VIII. Catherine's struggle to produce an heir places her marriage and position in the court at risk, and she's haunted by her choices from the past. Despite proving herself a politician, a diplomat, and a national inspiration, and even a military commander, Catherine must battle to save her love with the king and to preserve the peace and prosperity of their reign. The Spanish Princess Season 2 airs Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Top Sport on SAFM.
My heart almost stopped this past weekend. Beating Al Ahly in Cairo, that's not a small thing to do. But from your coaching perspective, what would you say stood out tactically from Sundowns and how they handled the pressure?
For me, what stood out was that the players themselves wanted it more, and because they didn't concede at home in Loftus, they made it easy for themselves to go away. And when you go away, you are far because the away goal rule was at an advantage for Mamelodi Sundowns. So they went in with 1 foot in of not conceding at home. So also another thing that stood out for me is Mamelodi Sundowns playing to the fact and the effect that Al Ahly has not beaten any South African team in the past 16 encounters. So that means that's something to work on already. So it's 2-0, you know. So those were the points that Sundowns were taking.
Top Sport on SAFM. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, in the final moments of the show, we are talking the social innovation for development. And there's 3 social innovation businesses from South Africa and Malawi that have been awarded grants through Inno for Good. I guess it's a play on words. Innov for Good, and this is an initiative by the French Embassy in South Africa, Lesotho, and Malawi. Joining us, we've got Jeffrey Berson, who is the attaché for innovation at the French Embassy in South Africa, and hopefully a little bit later on we'll be joined by Prudence Simelani, who is the founder of Samanjalo. Let me start perhaps with you, Jeffrey. How are you doing this afternoon?
Very good, and yourself. Thank you for having me.
Only but a pleasure. All right, let's talk about this initiative that's been spearheaded by the French Embassy in South Africa, Lesotho, and Malawi.
Exactly, yes. So this project is called Enough for Good. It's a 2-year project. Perhaps to understand why we run such projects, I should explain that at the French Embassy we have an innovation department that focuses on building cooperation programs between the 2 countries with innovators, entrepreneurs, researchers, investors, hubs, incubators, etc., to see how we can facilitate the creation of value in the ecosystems by connecting the several countries, right? So we look into innovators that tackle social, environmental issues, like it is the case with the project Enough for Good. And we also look at entrepreneurs, innovators that invent new technologies that will create value, services, employment in the economy of tomorrow. And this project, Enough for Good, is based on the idea that there's a lot of innovators, and by innovators we don't mean only tech startups, we really mean a broader understanding of what innovating means. There's a lot of innovators that work on tackling the social and environmental issues that South Africa and Malawi are facing every day. And so we had this 2-year project to identify and support promising entrepreneurs working on topics that we identified and connect them with the French ecosystem.
What was, because I know that the innovators represented Southern Africa at the Change Now Summit, which actually just happened at the Grand Palace in Paris. It just happened last week. But what was it about these particular innovators that stood out for you in the work that they do, that tapped into some of the touch points for Innovate for Good?
Yes, absolutely. So the way we proceeded to select the best entrepreneurs on our topics was that we had a public call for applications for several weeks across South Africa and Malawi online, and we shared it with partners to find the best entrepreneurs across 3 topics. One is green tech, one is public health, the other one was tech inclusion, how to use technology for better inclusion in the economy. And we invited 9 of the best entrepreneurs that we could find, thanks to that call for applications, to come pitch to an event in Cape Town to showcase to us their solution and why they have the potential to grow and really to have an impact on their communities. And then we selected 1 per category, per topic, that we have awarded grants to so that they could grow faster and really implement more projects, more impact on their communities, and also that we send to this big event, Change Now, in Paris.
And Change Now is one of the leading summits for innovative solutions, right? Because it actually gathers in one place tens of thousands of attendees.
Absolutely. And also, it's a beautiful place. It's at the Grand Palais in Paris, which is absolutely a fantastic space. And it's perhaps one of the biggest events in Europe for environmental friendly solutions through innovation. Actually, this year we celebrate the 10 years of the Paris Agreement on climate change, with all the countries trying to combat climate change together. And Change Now was labeled as one of the official events to commemorate the 10 years of this agreement and find solutions, including with entrepreneurship, to combat climate change and other related issues.
Yeah. I want to jump in Prudence Simelani in the conversation, who is the founder of Samanjalo, and one of the chosen few to go and represent Southern Africa. How are you doing this afternoon, Prudence?
Hi, Bridget. I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. All right. Give us the backstory of Samanjalo, based out in Emalahleni in Mpumalanga, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. So Samanjalo is a ash beneficiation business. So what we do is we're focusing on mineral waste. As you have rightly said, that we are based in Emalahleni. So we are definitely not in shortage of your coal waste, as well as other mineral waste. So as people who grow up in the town, obviously we see a lot of challenges with these ash dumps that are all over the place. So what we then did is, when we started the business, the intention was to repurpose this mineral waste and extend the circularity thereof. So that's how the business started. We have a collaboration with one of the research institutes in terms of technology that we use, which has been proven at a semi-industrial scale. So right now what we're looking at is commercializing the entire process and the technology. And that's what Samanjalo aims to do.
I mean, talk to us about converting the coal ash waste into sustainable building materials, because I mean, most of us probably would not have seen the gap, in order to innovate that solution.
Yeah. So basically, the production process that we have implemented reduces your carbon emission by up to 80%, and that's basically because of the process, obviously, that is involved in the production. And you can do so many things. At this point in time, a lot of people would think that we are a brick manufacturing business, but that's simply because that's the entry point of these construction products that we are making. You can make bricks out of that coal ash. You can make pavers. You can make roof tiles, stormwater drainage, and all of that. So as our entry, we've chosen the brick entry system because obviously we have some sort of knowledge of how the process works and it's easier. and then the intention obviously is to expand beyond that product as time goes on, as we grow and as we scale.
Some of the challenges when one is, entering a space that's lesser known, and a space that also speaks to some kind of, that old adage around African solutions for African problems.
So the biggest challenge is there's a lot of investment that needs to go into infrastructure first before you can even think of getting to your production level. So the infrastructure itself is not very cheap if you really are looking at targeting a big production. Like in our case, the plant that we've got can give you up to 22,000 units a day. So it's not obviously very cheap to get that. The land needs to be laid out properly. It's not very cheap to do that. There's quite a lot of infrastructure that has to go in. And in fact, it was interesting when I was listening to one of the guys presenting in one of the shows, NYDA, saying for entrepreneurs, the difficulty with entering into that space is exactly that. The fact that a lot of investment needs to go first into infrastructure. And you find that maybe some investors are not necessarily patient through that process, and therefore that falls by the wayside. It's also taking us quite a while to get to where we're at, and I think that's the biggest challenge. That's why this space has not been explored that much. Yeah.
How does the sort of transition as well into the shifts? Oh, let me save this for actually after the break. They've just alerted me, Prudence, that we're just going to go into a quick break. We'll come back on the other side and we'll pick up the conversation.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
In an apartment far, far away.
Mara Springs is not that far, Mos.
Who's the narrator here?
Sorry.
Exists a room dedicated to who Morena refers to as the GOAT. From his very first soccer boots, right down to the shirt that he wore in his final World Cup, Morena has it all. Ask Morena anything about the GOAT, and the answer will roll off his tongue like second nature. Morena is not just obsessed. Morena is the GOAT's super fan.
Uswile boy, it's me, super fan.
Yeah, sure, boy. Tune in to Superfan Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. on S3 and watch contestants compete in challenges related to their favorite artists, ultimately lip-syncing to determine the ultimate superfan. S3.
Switch to stream with SABC Plus. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime. Zero subscription fees. Download SABC Plus on Android or iOS and watch the Betway Premier Soccer League, the English Premier League, and the Bundesliga live. You can also catch up with Uzalo, Skim Sam, Generations on demand and listen to your favorite radio stations live. Ukhozi, Umhlobo Wenene, Radio 2000 and 5FM, all for free. Switch to stream with SABC Plus now. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime with SABC Plus.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We are having a conversation around, social innovation for development, and we are looking at this initiative by the French Embassy in South Africa, Lesotho, and Malawi that saw social innovation businesses from the various territories go out and represent Southern Africa at the Change Now Summit, which happened last week in Paris. And of course, we're in conversation with Jeffrey, who's the attaché for innovation at the French Embassy in South Africa, and Prudence, who's the founder of Samanjalo. Prudence, given the fact that your business talks to a conversation around reducing carbon emissions. And we know that in Mpumalanga, for instance, it has 80% of the country's coal production taking place in Mpumalanga. But now we have this sort of complex energy transition target that's been happening that aims to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. How does your business then shift and evolve itself to answer to what the space needs or where the space is going?
I like that question. So this also gives us an opportunity to clarify exactly our positioning, because a lot of people have asked that the world in its entirety is moving to green energy. So how do you see this business moving forward? And again, the question that you're asking. So what we are saying is, whether we go green tomorrow or we go green in the next 10 years, the bottom line remains these ash dams are there to stay. We live, we breathe, they are there. And what we deal with is not necessarily the encouragement of the production of that coal ash. It is to deal with that which is residue from any other evolution that we are going through in terms of your coal. So basically what we're saying is, even if tomorrow the entire system could shut down in terms of we are no longer using coal to produce electricity, it will not evaporate your dams as they sit. So you are already taking up space. There's pollution issues around that. What are you going to do? And that's where the business comes in, where we're saying, cut it tomorrow, cut it in the next 10 years. Truth is, you have waste material to deal with for the country and for the health of the people around you. So that's what we see. And that's what we aim to do, to make sure that eventually what you would have, like growing up, I always thought these ash dams were God-created mountains, only to realize that, no, they're man-made. So what we're saying is, can we not eventually get to a point where these ash dams can eventually be a recreational center, could be a place of use? So that's what we are targeting. That's our value add in terms of the business.
Jeffrey, just as we prepare to wind down the conversation, I mean, what are the hopes for the French embassy in order to, well, in terms of sustaining this campaign and seeing more innovative entrepreneurs like Prudence take up their space in the global conversation?
Yes, thank you for your question, because of course those projects are meant to scale the impact of the local innovators working on those local issues. Well, for one thing, we're trying to really communicate, and that's what we're doing right now, about this initiative, about those solutions, to explore, understand what's really happening, because there's a lot of innovators in South Africa and Malawi that are perhaps not always very well known by the public and by private stakeholders. So we're trying to communicate about what we're doing, and also our main expectation is that there will be ties between the French and the South African ecosystems coming from this project. So once you get the innovators from France and from South Africa get to know each other, I think it's good for inspiration. But also we believe that if we have business connections that were created from that, both countries will benefit. And then you can explore how to sustain actually the impact of those entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. And Prudence, congratulations on representing Southern Africa, and may you continue to do, groundbreaking work with your team. That was Prudence Simelane, founder of Samanjalo, and of course Jeffrey Beerson, who's the attaché for innovation at the French Embassy in South Africa. That is where we wrap it up for this afternoon. We thank you so much for choosing to be in conversation with us. You could have been anywhere. You chose to be here. We don't take it for granted. Ashraf is coming through already. We're seeing some of the messages intermingled with ours on WhatsApp. We know that hot topic for you today is the ANC presser that was happening whilst we were on air. Already seeing some of the sentiments that you all are sharing. So I'm sure it's going to be on the table. From myself and the team, we'll see you tomorrow.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Has Ramaphosa said anything that for you stands out, keeping in mind the point you made? South Africa maybe doesn't need to punch above its weight, but certainly needs to punch at its weight, but to do that effectively.
Yeah. Russia is clearly trying to, drag South Africa closer into its orbit. There's also China, and that's once again we're talking about within this BRICS grouping. I think by meeting with Zelensky, Ramaphosa is sending a very strong message that South Africa cannot be taken for granted. It is no one's, automatic ally or someone that you would expect to carry water for them. It will set its own foreign policy course. It will meet with whoever it wants, and I think that is to be commended.
Peter Zalmayev, the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative.
You're listening to the National Pulse. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
Top stories at 3 o'clock. Presidency establishes inquiry into delayed TRC prosecutions, and GNU to establish a new consultation process. Good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa is to establish a judicial commission of inquiry to probe if attempts were made to prevent the investigation or prosecution of apartheid-era crimes referred by the TRC to the NPA. He maintains that all affected families deserve closure and justice. The establishment of the commission follows a settlement discussion in a court application brought by families of victims of apartheid-era crimes. The presidency says through this commission, the president is determined that the true facts be established and the matter be brought to finality. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya.
Allegations of improper influence in delaying or hindering the investigation and prosecution of apartheid-era crimes have persisted from previous administrations. Through this commission, President Ramaphosa is determined that the true facts be established and the matter brought to finality. The presidency will shortly make an announcement on the head of the Commission of Inquiry, the timeframes, and the full terms of reference.
The Constitutional Court has ruled that the blanket ban on personal laptops in prison cells is unlawful and violates the constitutional right to further education. The judgment follows an inmate, Mbalenhle Ntuli's challenge. He took the head of the Johannesburg prison and Correctional Services Minister to court for denying him access to a laptop for studying. Ntuli's counsel argued that the Correctional Services Department's policy prevented him from studying. This is how Justice Stephen Mahit delivered judgment.
Any inmate in a correctional center registered as a student with a recognized tertiary or further educational institution and who reasonably needs a computer to support their studies, and any student who has registered for a course of study that reasonably requires a computer as a compulsory part of the